Yeah, I think I might be in love, but please don't tell my wife. Previous weekend, I went to a city named Vejle here in Denmark. I was there for 4 days because I had gotten accreditation as a photographer for a major sporting event that only takes place every fourth year. The event was the DGI National Sports Festival. It wasn't a fierce sporting competition like the Olympics, but more of a social event where more than 22,000 people meet to share their interests and have fun. It might sound a bit unconventional, but I promise you it was a fantastic event, and you'll hopefully also get a positive perception from this video and my photos. However, if you don't feel like looking at my face more than necessary and just want to skip directly to the conclusion about the two Sony lenses, I've made chapters down here. As usual, full disclosure, I was given press accreditation and meals for free. All other expenses I paid myself, and my gear is something I have also purchased myself. I'm still not interesting enough for many to give or borrow me a lot of gear. But hey, the number of subscribers to my channel has exploded since my last video, an increase of more than 50% from 30 to 47. So you need to hurry up and subscribe now if you want to be a part of the first nifty 50.
The best of the best of the best, sir!
I had a lot of activities planned out for a step-by-step comparison of the two lenses. I had even written down a long list on my phone. I wanted to do all the cool stuff the really smart YouTubers do. Testing, focus shift, speed, focus breathing, flare and ghosting, etc. But there was so much happening at the event all the time in Vejle, and I was so caught up in just photographing that I never got to all that. I'm really sorry, I might even lose a major part of my newly gained subscribers again. But on the other hand, I'm much more into real-world photography than studio and backyard testing. And since the 70 to 200mm GM2 lens has been my go-to lens for more than a couple of years now, and I had the chance to test the living daylight out of the new 50 to 150, this might end up being a more realistic comparison. It would take a long time to give a chronological account of the entire event and everything I photographed, and probably also get pretty boring. So I'll try to do a fairly short summary and accentuate some of the times where the new 50 to 150 f2 really demonstrated its amazing qualities. Thursday evening there was a big opening ceremony. With both the participant and spectators, there were probably somewhere around 25,000 people gathered. The weather, the light and the whole ceremony in itself was amazing, so there was no excuse for not filling up your memory card. One of the two rules we as photographer were told was don't screw it up for DR, which is the Danish Broadcasting Corporation. But besides that, we could move freely around, which I definitely took advantage of. And I got a lot of really nice photos. I had brought both my 70 to 200mm and my new 50 to 150mm, but I ended up using the 50 to 150 almost the whole time. And I didn't find myself lacking reach once, and with the extra width, I could frame more images than what I'm used to with the 70 to 200. So I also didn't use my wider lenses much. Friday morning, I had signed up for a mandatory joint briefing with some of the other photographers and journalists. After the briefing, we went to see and photograph a large group of almost 5,200 students training for their show, and the appearance of this chap, His Royal Highness the King of Denmark. The second of the two rules we were met with was don't talk to the king. Well, I didn't really have anything to ask him, and I've met him a couple of times before, back when I was young and pretty. Now I'm not so young anymore. I just took the opportunity to test my new Sony 50 to 150mm f2 even more, and it turned out to be very suitable for even royals as well. That's why I'm wearing a shirt today and a new deodorant, just to level up for the king. But honestly, the photos themselves aren't that interesting. It was impossible to get a just remotely unique photo of our king under those circumstances. I do, however, still like this little sequence of photos, not because of their quality, but because of the story I think they recount. The king is surrounded by thousands of people and big shot grown-ups, but I noticed that for the brief period of time he talked to the two youngsters, he gave them his full and undivided attention. He was genuinely interested in them and their replies to his questions, and I found that very sympathetic. I did spend quite a lot of time getting a few mediocre photos of Frederick X, and after that I was eager to get going and photograph some of the many other activities. But unfortunately, I didn't have time to visit all the locations. But here's a short recap of some of the disciplines I did manage to photograph. I also went to see two really nice indoor gymnastics shows. One was with a team made up of gymnasts from the Nordic countries, and the other was with the national Danish performance team. Besides being utterly blown away by the level of gymnastics, it was also another opportunity to use the 50 to 150mm f2. The indoor facilities are made for several different sport disciplines, but it can be used, for example, for handball, a court which is 20 by 40 meters. But even though some of the gymnasts were 20 meters away, or perhaps even more, I still didn't find myself lacking range. Both the extra width and the extra stop of light also turned out to be very useful under those circumstances. If I had used an f2.8 lens, some of the photos would just have been too noisy. During the sports festival, there were also many music events and concerts, and I visited some of them trying to nail some good shots. For some of the concerts, the artists didn't allow photographers in front of the stage, so I had to use the 50 to 150mm from further back, which it actually did very well though. And for some of the concerts, especially if it was a middle-aged man like me, they didn't give a damn what I did, so I got close. But my 24 and 50mm was still easier to handle and lighter to carry in tight spaces. Perhaps it's just a matter of getting used to it, but the 50 to 150 is a bit big to carry at a more crowded concert. So for some, the 28 to 70 f2 might be a better choice. I haven't tried that lens, but it would be cool to do a test of both the Sony f2 zoom lenses at a concert. Saturday was a pretty wet day. I started outside, but I got quite wet and quite dirty from the mud. So I decided to photograph a talk slash concert slash sing-along with Rasmus Skov Boring. He's a Danish composer and pianist, and he also gives lectures and talks about music and songs, where the audience is also invited to sing along. With my accreditation, I took a look behind the scene. The atmosphere was very relaxed, and I took the opportunity to ask Rasmus if I could photograph him. And I meant in front of the stage, just to make sure that I didn't disturb him. But I think we misunderstood each other a bit, because he replied that I was most welcome on stage. Being photographed never bothered him the least, and he wouldn't mind me walking around next to him. That sure as hell got my adrenaline going. We agreed that I should come on stage after the first song, so I crossed behind him when he was standing up for a brief talk. I waited behind the speakers, and I crossed back during his second song. The tent was packed, my knees were shaking, but I'm very happy with the photos I got. I spent the rest of the concert and talk photographing from every other angle I could come up with, and I got a lot of nice shots. And look at this. I'm crouched down against the fence, very close to the front of the stage, and I got this image at 50mm. Look at the quality and how much I'm able to capture at the wide end of this lens. I'm quite certain this was the moment where I started developing very strong feelings for this lens. The Sony 50 to 150mm f2 GM lens is 1332 grams completely stripped down, and 1505 grams with the lens hood and the lens foot. Completely stripped down, both lenses are 20.5 centimeters long, but the f2 lens is almost 2 centimeters wider. With the lens hood, the 70-200 is more than 2 centimeters longer, but the 50-150 is almost 2 centimeters wider. It does have a very large lens hood and it will take up quite some space in your camera bag. The 70-200 has a reasonable 77mm filter thread, but the 50-150 has a whopping 95mm filter thread, which also means more expensive filters if you choose to use them. The 70-200 has a zoom throw of 50mm and the 50-150 has a 53mm zoom throw. They both zoom internally and it's easy to zoom from one end to the other just using your thumb. They both have an iris lock and you can declick the iris ring. They also both have 3 programmable buttons on the side. The 50-150 has an AF/MF button and a direct manual focus on/off button. The 70-200 also has those, but a focus limit button and 2 buttons for the stabilization. Built-in image stabilization. One has it, the other doesn't. Did I notice any difference while shooting with my A9 III? Nope. Maybe with an A7 IV with only a 5-axis IBIS, it would be more noticeable. They both have 4 extremely fast linear XD focus motors. Did I discard more out of focus images from one over the other? No, I did not. I find them equally good, even with my Sony A9 III at 120 frames per second. I spent 4 days taking tens of thousands of photos. You'll only see a fraction of them, which is a bit unfair to the event and everyone involved. But I sent some of the many images to DGI and some of the participants. It was a fantastic event with nothing but fantastic people and also a fantastic opportunity to take a lot of nice photos. If you had hoped for a winner between the 2 lenses, I'm sorry to disappoint you. There is no conclusive winner between these 2. They're both equally excellent. When it comes to usable photos from either one or the other, I haven't found any difference out there in the real world. They both have extremely fast and accurate autofocus and image quality is excellent. They do have different properties though, and the only conclusion I can reach is that you should choose the one most suited for your needs. The 50-150mm has a shorter range and it can go wider. It's more suitable for indoor use and better in low light. It's one of a kind, never seen before, but that is, however, hardly an argument for choosing it though. The 70-200mm has a longer range, but it can go quite as wide. So it's more of an outdoor lens. It's more compact and it's lighter, and there's also teleconverters available, and it has a lower price. The new Sony 50-150mm f2 GM lens will most likely be my new go-to lens, but it's mainly because I photograph both sports and concerts. If you already own a 70-200mm and you don't need the width and the low light capabilities, you should stick with what you got. And Sony, for Pete's sake, get cranking on those teleconverters for the 50-150. Well, they're probably on summer vacation right now, and my video is definitely not the first they'll watch when they get back. I hope you found this review useful. I sure enjoyed spending time in Vejle making it, surrounded by nothing but smiling and kind people. As usual, please stick around just a tiny bit longer for a few of my top picks from the DGI National Sports Festival 2024 in Vejle. See you around.